I don't think anybody really saw this one coming. Lyon do have a couple of really good players, and Nabil Fekir definitely showed his worth last night. But Manchester City just didn't look right at all last night.
No, they didn't play well at all. I was watching Manchester United match for it because I took it, like most people, a foregone conclusion that City would win easily.
Yeah.
Then I heard the result and switched over. City didn't play well at all, Richie, but I have to say, Lyon were very, very good. Very good. They defended well, they were back in numbers, and when they had a chance to it, they didn't sit back, not by a long chalk, and when they had a chance to go, they go like all good teams should do. So I was very, very surprised because I didn't know anything about them. I thought it'd be a walkover for City. It wasn't. But City didn't play well. But I must say, Lyon were very, very good. Very good.
Was there a deal of complacency, do you think, on Manchester City's behalf last night?
Well, there could be, but there shouldn't be. I mean, what a lot of people say, to be fair, Guardiola was up in the stand, he wasn't in the dressing room. Whether that shouldn't have that much of an effect, to be quite honest. I just thought that Lyon were better than most people expected, probably including City, and maybe a bit of complacency there. But I'd have to give full credit to Lyon.
There are a couple of warning signs for Manchester City. We've seen Leroy Sané being in and out of the side, and both Pep Guardiola and obviously the international setup questioning his attitude. I know he's had a kid recently, and that clearly might affect things on a personal level. But Fernandinho as well in midfield, who was their rock essentially, and the guy who kind of did all the dirty work in midfield the last couple of years, losing possession I think 4 or 5 times, I think more than any other City player last night, and losing possession in the lead up to that original goal as well.
I'm not a Fernandinho fan at all, Richie, at all. I think he's not good on the ball. He's like a typical now holding midfield player. He does that well. But I think City miss De Bruyne an awful lot to play in his particular position. He doesn't start, he doesn't initiate anything. He's not really comfortable on the ball. He does get a few tackles in, but it doesn't do enough for my liking in that particular position. And I'm against holding midfield players generally. I don't think that there should be a special
differentiation,
of a midfield player. Okay, some players play deeper than others, but I don't think there should be a midfield player just for, they say, they protect the back four, which they don't, because Jesus Christ couldn't, excuse the language, couldn't protect the back four, and they're not expected to contribute anything. I think his distribution's not good. Anyway, that's him. But it wasn't just him. I mean, to be fair to Sané came on and sub, and he was really, really good.
Yeah.
If anybody was going to change it, he was going to change it. But like what happens with Manchester City in this particular situation, everything is bad after the defeat like that.
I don't think anybody should be panicking if they're a Manchester City fan tonight.
Well, they lost the first round of the thing, but people do read a lot into it. It's like, again, go back to Spurs in the first match of the season, Manchester United win 3, they're going to be up there in the league. They say 2 matches, 3 matches later, they're no good. You know, Guardiola did what he did last year and did brilliantly. This is the first match in the Champions League. I'm sure they'd pick up. It was a bad night for them, there's no doubt about it. But again, not the end of the world. So I think obviously they will pick it up, but again, I think they need to bring it back to give them that energy in the middle of the field. But they didn't have that last night. They didn't have the energy. Lyon did, and they were very, very good and deserved to win the match.
The issue of the crowd is something that came up. A lot of people on social media and just in general are quick to point out that there was 13,000 less fans there last night. I think around 40,000 at the game, and there was 53,000 there for the Fulham game. Dan was in obviously in the newsround and says the season tickets obviously would have an issue in that you have people who are guaranteed to be there in the Saturday or the Sunday or whatever, who might necessarily be guaranteed a European ticket. But that level of fall off, it just seems a little bit off, and it's been an ongoing thing with City. There seems to be a lack of buy-in from the City fans towards Europe as a whole. I mean, they boo the Champions League quote-unquote anthem. They just don't seem happy with the whole setup. It's not necessarily something that they look towards. I think
what happens, Richie, is that when they first get into Europe, teams, the fans, it's new to them. It's great. City, and that they're there in numbers. Like, eating bread is soon forgotten, you know, because Manchester City forget when they didn't qualify. And I had experienced that at Leeds, to be quite honest. When we got, Leeds had done nothing for years and years. We qualified for Europe. We're in Europe for 10 years, right? And like the first match in Europe, it was packed out. After 5 years, right, 5 or 6 years when we were in Europe, I remember talking to the Leeds fans. They were playing on a Wednesday night. You're going to the match on Wednesday? Oh, no, we're waiting for the semis. That's what happens when teams, like that feeling of, oh, we're doing better than we should be doing, rather than, of course we'll win Lyon or nothing. We'll wait till later on and we'll go to when it really matters.
Yeah.
That's what happens with supporters, unfortunately. Now, they got to kick up the backside last night, which might change, but it does happen. You know, when it's like a team when they're promoted the first year, the fans are all there, they're great, and they're going and that. After 3 or 4 years, like say Tony Pulis at Stoke, for example, you know, the fans never complained about his style of football when they first got up for the first 3 seasons. After that, it's, well, we want something new.
How many Barcelona graduates can you get in our starting 11, please, Tony? You know, that's what they ended up with, and they ended up sinking slowly and slowly.
Exactly. So that's the way it works. So I wouldn't be too bothered about that from City's point of view. But I know that's the attitude of fans. So that Leeds would say, "You going to the match? First match? No. I'm waiting until we're waiting until the semis."
But football's an expensive business as well. I mean, you can't be expected to go to whatever it would be if you take in all European games.
But when they first get into Europe, you're to go, Richie. It's a novelty. The novelty wears off very quickly.
Exactly.
So, but that's the game. It's only because City's success that the fans are not going. That's because they're so good.
One of my weird things is to go back and look at like old football stuff on YouTube, and God knows there's enough of it there, especially when I was a kid, to be reminded of certain matches. And you go back and look at the European coverage from, say, Manchester United's run in the Cup Winners' Cup in '91 when they won that year, or Liverpool when they got back into Europe the following year after a 5-year absence. You would think that Anfield or Old Trafford or Highbury would have been absolutely jammed. There were several games they would have played where 2/3 full. You know, and I know the opposition played a factor in that, but again, it's not necessarily a banker, and it shouldn't be necessarily that you get a home crowd full the whole time. You know,
that's right. It's a novelty wears off, Richie. You know, like a Spurs, say Wolves this year got up. They'll be packed in week out and week, and if they get a draw against Manchester, it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Give them 2 or 3 years of that, and they say, oh, it wasn't that good. But that's the way it is. But you know, Man City. I think Man City will come back. It was a bad defeat. It was a bad night for them.
It'll be a wake-up call. Yeah.